Welcome to Around the Weird. Here's your host, the museum curator of the strange and unusual, Mr. Nothing.
Thank you, mysterious voice, and welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all the unusual and out of the ordinary literature that I have found in my travels. It is the end of September, and so I don't want to talk about a specific book, but rather I want to do the usual end of the month wrap-up and TBR. For what I read in September, I had a lot of fun reads, a lot of really good books that I read, which was interesting because it seems like there was a lot more very good reads, potential end of the month contenders than you usually see in a month, so I was pretty happy about that. And then we have October coming up. Hopefully I'll be able to get to some of the books that I have, but given that I work in higher education and fall quarter just started, it could be pretty busy there. So I'll try to make sure I can get to what I can, and anything that I don't, we'll save for probably November or December or even next year. But as I just mentioned, it is horror, so I am going to be doing the usual Spooktober kind of thing, as I mentioned before. But I have something interesting planned, which I'll talk about in the TBR. So a lot of fun horror coming up there. But without further ado, let's talk about what I read in September and what I plan to read in October. And we'll move on from there. So what did I read or watch in September? In terms of movies, the usual monthly movie thing that I do, I watched Andrei Rublev with Lucas from Strike the Sun MD. I thought it was really good. I thought it was okay, kind of weird. It kind of lost me in the middle part, but the ending was very powerful. And so overall, I think I'm better off for having watched it, but there were some parts that didn't really grab my attention, I didn't really care for. So, but it's still a very interesting movie that you might enjoy out there, maybe more so than me. And I also read a number of books too, including No Country for Old Men by Cormac McCarthy, which I thought was pretty rad. I ended up watching the movie after reading the book, and a lot of the stuff where I was talking about where I was like McCarthy's meaning isn't really clear was made a little bit more clear in the movie, especially at the part at the end of the story where one of the police officers' friends is telling them the story of how their grandparents were attacked on their ranch in the 1800s, and noting that this country has always been hard on people, that there's always been lots of violence. I think McCarthy is saying that this violence in the 80s is nothing new, even though politicians, conservatives say, we need to return to the America that was great. America's always kind of been like this, so there's nothing we can really return to. I also read I, Miha, which I thought was good. This was a book club read recommended by my friend Bevan. I thought it was really good, really beautiful art as well. Definitely recommended to you out there. I read Superman President Luthor by Jeff Loeb, which was a story written in the year 2000, 2001. It was kind of a collection. And it was sort of re-released in 2017 to coincide with another businessman president taking power. I thought the story was fine. I really felt like Superman could have really examined his relationship more with Luthor and sort of understood why they let such a villain rise to power. But, it was written in 2000, and I don't expect, those types of comic books to really challenge the status quo. So it was what it was. I also read Safari Honeymoon, which was another comic that I got from my local library. Thought it was a lot of fun. It also had very peculiar art, so definitely recommend you check out that one. And then I also read The Violent Bear It Away by Flannery O'Connor. Probably the best of the month, but it's tied with maybe another story for the best of the month contender. Really loved Flannery O'Connor's exploration of religion and sort of religious doubt and coming to sort of reaffirm your belief in a religion or something like that. I didn't expect the story to be so, dark and whatnot, but I also read A Good Man is Hard to Find, so I probably should have expected that. I also read A Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk, which I thought was good. Really interesting exploration of capitalism and toxic masculinity, although, again, much like No Country for Old Men, the interpretation kind of changes the nature of the book there. Where do you think he's lamenting that masculinity has become soft, or do you think he's talking about how capitalism has created these problems for men? Is he acknowledging a problem or lamenting the lost traditional manhood sort of thing? I think it's more of a criticism, but you never quite know sometimes. So, maybe check it out yourself and let me know what you think. I also read A Visit from the Goon Squad, which was boring, unfortunately. I had bought that book from a bookstore in San Francisco, and I had heard good things about it, but it just didn't land with me, I think. Too diluted and focusing on multiple people about things that didn't really seem to matter. So I just tuned out pretty quickly there. And then I also read The Last Werewolf by Glenn Duncan, which I thought was intriguing, but I felt that there was a lot of missed potential there, especially because Duncan focused on, again, multiple different things, but never giving it enough attention to any of those things. So this story kind of it becomes meandering at that point, and I wasn't a fan of that. And then I also read The Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler, which I thought was really great. Another best of the month contender, maybe more so leaning towards this, but again, I also really love The Violent Bear It Away. And I just really liked how Butler was sort of talking about the creation of a new ideology, as well as sort of the suffering that exists because of this climate catastrophe and whatnot, and the need to adapt to it all, or to adapt to something so that you could be better prepared for the world that you're now living in. It's very anxiety-inducing too, because the future she's describing is something that is really seemingly coming to fruition right now because of the lack of attention by those in power paid to climate catastrophe and the economic crisis, and just not really caring about lower class people, unfortunately. So hard to read at times, but still very good. I also read a number of short stories, including First Love by Judith Kofer. I thought it was good, but one of those stories that I found myself forgetting about as the month went on. Piece of Steak by Jack London, which I thought was good. Very, very sad ending there, but definitely a high-quality short story in the way that Jack London writes this fight that is occurring in this story. A Splinter, which I thought was bland, by Elizabeth McCracken. I don't even remember what the story was about, to be honest. And I didn't really care to check out the video again because the story didn't really land with me, apparently. And then The Cask of Amontillado, which I thought was great. Probably the best short story of the month, which you probably expect that coming from Poe. He's great at writing horror, and I really like the sort of questionable feud that exists in this story, where Montresor is like, I hate my enemy here, and his enemy, doesn't really know that he's in a feud, or is so drunk he can't tell that he's in a feud or something like that. But yeah, I definitely recommend it if you haven't already read it. And then I also read a number of poems for the month of September. Go check out those in my Poetry Thursday collection. But what do I plan to read in October? For the movie of the month, I want to, I plan to watch with Lucas The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, which is a German expressionism film from the 1920s. Probably one of the older movies that I'm gonna have seen. I've heard good things about it, but I haven't ever seen it, so I'm very much looking forward to that. In terms of books, I have a number of things planned, including the next volume of the Berserk series. Haven't been able to get to that yet, but it should be a lot of fun. Also, Dead Sea by Tim Curran, which is a book I sort of picked out of a hat at random. I did that last year with The Fisherman by John Langan, so hopefully this is of similar quality. Vampires of El Norte by Isabel Canas, I believe is her name. This is a book this is a book that's been recommended for book club. If you would like to join in on this and read a spooky story by a Latina author, I definitely recommend clicking the link in the description to join the Discord and inquiring about that. We would love to have you. I might also read The Hacienda. That was also, my friend Bevan was like, well, we'll read this or that, and so I ended up buying The Hacienda, but then she was like, actually, we're reading Vampires of El Norte. So I have both books, and I'm probably going to read both of them. I don't like to read authors back to back, just to get a lot of variety and whatnot, but I guess that's what's going to be happening here. Also, the library reads that I check out at random. Hopefully, I can find some quality horror books rather than short stories there. The Haunting of Hill House, which was on my 2023 TBR. I figured I might as well wait until October to get to that. So be on the lookout for that. And then other books that I find along the way. If I have time for them, I will be sure to check those out. I also have a bunch of short stories planned. I'm actually going to be doing something. This is what I have planned. It's instead of doing the October where I talk about Edgar Allan Poe, I am going to be doing Junji Tober, which is a month of Junji Ito short stories. Or short story graphic novel type of stories that he's written. I've always heard of Junji Ito, but I've never had a chance to explore any of his work. So one of my friends recommended that I check out a number of them, and I ended up buying a book called Tombs, which has some of his graphic novel short stories. So I'll be reading that throughout the month of October, talking about Junji Ito and what he brings to horror and any interesting things that I can note in the story. So be sure to check out those videos, and then I have a number of poems planned. Along with the Spooktober themed, they're gonna be spooky or as close to spooky as we can get poems. So be sure to check out that as well. That is my wrap up and TBR for September and October. If you have any recommendations for scary reads or just things you think I need to check out in the near future, let me know in the comments below. Would love to hear from you and check out anything that you might think is up my alley. Otherwise, just generally comment about any other book I mentioned here. Or like, share, and subscribe so that more people can find out about this channel if they don't already know. Again, join the Discord if you want to talk about books, our book club, or just movies, or TV, or whatnot in general. And until then, I wish you the best of luck in your weird and spooky travels.